And the federal workforce will come to order. Good morning, and welcome to the not only the members who are here today and the staff, but also those people in the audience in support of the discussion that we will have today. Without objection, I may declare a recess in time. I recognize myself for the purpose of making an opening statement. Today's hearing on the Department of Defense's fraud risk management efforts and how they work to combat fraud. In 2024, DoD officials told the GAO that they didn't believe there was much fraud within their department relative to their overall spending. Reports show that DoD spends over $1 trillion annually. So, as you can tell, even a small percentage would be significant. From 2017 to 2024, DoD reported that about $10.8 billion could be confirmed as fraud. $10.8 billion, when compared to $1 trillion, is not as what they would consider to be relative problem. We do. The people who are gathered today, including members of Congress on a bipartisan basis, do consider that $10.8 billion of confirmed fraud is a problem. This figure mostly relies on dollars that were recovered. According to GAO, confirmed fraud and the amount recovered may only reflect a small fraction of the extent of fraud within DoD. To accomplish its global mission, DoD relies on contractors for goods and services. In fiscal year 2023, DoD reported about $431 billion, or 71% of total defense spending, went to contractors for various products and services in support of the warfighter. 71%. For years, GAO has reported that DoD has struggled to accurately account for the government property that contractors possess. This longstanding issue affects the DoD's ability to produce fully auditable financial services, as we have discussed in this subcommittee and in the committee under our young chairman, James Comer, for a number of years. It affects our ability to ensure that taxpayer money is being spent appropriately. And our service members are getting actually what they need because the taxpayer of this country is paying that bill. It affects our ability to prevent bad actors from exploiting vulnerabilities in the contracting system. In essence, it keeps people honest because they know people are looking. There have been some notable cases over the years that highlighted how far fraudsters will go to line their pockets by defrauding the federal government. In the early 2000s, Fat Leonard orchestrated the worst corruption scheme in U.S. naval history. He bribed naval officers to steer businesses towards his company, Glenn Defense Marine Asia. This company offered services to the United States Navy, its ships, and it overcharged the military by at least $35 million. The scheme went on for over a decade. This case is still being investigated so this full scope of damage is going to be put together, and yet today we do not have the final figure. As far back as 2006, Navy criminal investigators opened and closed 27 separate investigations into Glenn Defense Marine Asia. GAO recently reported that DoD's updated fraud risk management strategy does not include data analytics. Data analytics would make it easier and clearer for personnel to verify information and determine eligibility for contractors to receive federal awards. It would also help connect the dots between suspicious activities and those which were legitimate. Had investigators and the DoD contracted personnel using data analytics back to 2006, perhaps Fat Leonard could have been stopped years before. Examples like this are horrible, but fraud within the DoD just doesn't threaten their financial positions, but it undermines the opportunity for them to know what they have, where it's located, and where the service is properly provided. There are real operational impacts that can pose a threat to our service member. One such case involved Defense Criminal Investigator Service involved in working against a fraudster that purportedly falsified documents. These documents included a fraudulent certificate to conceal the fraudster's company, and failure to maintain required manufacturing standards were for a machine gun part. This financial impact was only $124,000, but the non-financial impact was more troubling. A military engineer testing one of these machine gun parts saw several deficiencies. These deficiencies could have harmed our warfighters, not just in protecting this nation, but also their lives. Our sons and daughters are fighting for our country, and they should not have to worry about whether or not a contracted part for their weapon will function as it was correctly manufactured. This subcommittee is continuing to have conversations with not only GAO, but also those within the Defense Department, including the Inspector General community. We are there to make sure that we work with them. We want to make sure agencies understand their responsibility to make sure taxpayer money is wisely spent. One of our first hearings this Congress was focused on preventing fraud rather than chasing fraudsters who've already run away with taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. Shining a light on contracting fraud within DoD and highlighting some common sense strategies that can prevent this fraud is also what this conversation is about today. Eliminating the amount of fraud within DoD is a hard task, but we are up to that. And I hope that this conversation, as well as those that we're giving to the two witnesses that we have today, where they will understand that we will join with them in making sure that the United States Congress speaks with one voice to say that we don't just expect this to be done, we want it done now. Time must be on our side.